Jamie, and I'm the Unicorn Recruiter. I've worked in global talent acquisition for 15 years, both as an in-house and as an agency recruiter. I'm also a leadership development coach, and I now help companies hire their top talent, also known as unicorns, and help job seekers find their next position. Join me each week for tips and tricks and how to navigate not only finding your next position, but also career development. This is the Unicorn Recruiter Podcast. Hi everyone, welcome to episode 5 of the Unicorn Recruiter Podcast. Today I'm going to talk about the difference between internal and external recruiters. So I do talk about this in my book, Confessions from a Recruiter. My opening chapters, I break down the difference between internal and external, but there's really a lot of questions surrounding that I receive, at least, is when do I reach out to an internal recruiter? When do I reach out to an external? Should I use externals? What does that look like? And just understanding the difference. So I have worked as both an agency recruiter and an in-house recruiter. Multiple times I've gone from agency to in-house, and now I'm out on my own doing retained and fractional recruiting. So I've done all of it. And what I will tell you, as an internal recruiter, you are an extension of the HR department. I worked very much, obviously for the company, but recruiting was one of my jobs. I was responsible for ATS improvements, optimizations, process improvements, improving our interview process, improving our candidate experience, our marketing strategies. Very much involved in managing a team. I managed a global team at one point. So I had multiple responsibilities. So as an internal recruiter, so recruiting, while I was a recruiter, I wasn't just full cycle recruiting. I was marketing. I was a project manager. I was, doing some IT work. I did kind of everything. And I think most recruiters kind of work in that capacity. So when, people are reaching out to internal recruiters, you're interested in a company and I tell candidates or clients that I'm working with for job searching assistance, reach out to the recruiters on LinkedIn. But I also tell them, they have so many things going on. Recruiting is just one of their many responsibilities, especially if they're a recruiting manager and they're managing a team. Most recruiting managers, just about every recruiting manager I've ever worked with is a working manager. They still have a full desk load or are close to it, and they're managing, their recruiters and their desk loads. So I, keep in mind that, not every recruiter is going to respond to you, but an internal recruiter is working primarily for that one company, and they are responsible for hiring talent for that one company. So they may be aligned by skill set, like you have engineering recruiters, you have your, what I would consider like corporate service centers, so your HR, IT, legal, finance. IT can be separate, doesn't have to be. Supply chain can be separate, doesn't have to be. Sales recruiters, you've got people kind of working in either their skill sets or by region. So at some of the companies that I've worked for, we were assigned to region or to a site, and you kind of covered everything that was in that site or everything that was in that region. In some cases, I was aligned to executives, and I supported anything that fell under their business sector. So those recruiters are working on a multitude of different types of positions usually. Sometimes you get just pure engineering recruiters, just pure IT recruiters, finance recruiters in an internal organization, but in a lot of cases, they are working multiple positions. I would say an internal rec load, the highest I ever had was 87 positions. So people could reach out to me on LinkedIn, but I was not responding. I did not have time. And the lowest I've ever had was probably about 15 or 20. So an internal recruiter has typically a pretty decent rec load. I would say in 2020, a lot of us tech recruiters were working, well into the 40s and 50s. That was the period in time I had 87. They are busy. They are sourcing. They are screening. They're trying to move candidates through the interview process. They're very lucky if they have an interview coordinator or a recruiting coordinator that can help schedule some of those interviews. In a lot of cases, they're scheduling their own interviews. So that's your internal recruiter. Now, your external recruiter is an agency recruiter or third-party recruiter, and they are working for their clients. So in which case, they are working only for the companies that they have a contract with, that they are signed on to recruit for them. So agency recruiters are not that different than internal recruiters. An agency recruiter does not mean that they have all of the companies in the world to recruit for. They only have their clients. And I will talk about reverse recruiting because that's kind of a new term and newer thing that some of my clients have been asking me about. It's been out there for a while, but I think it's becoming a little bit more prevalent. That's a completely different topic, but reverse recruiting is essentially where the agency tries to get business by using a candidate's resume. I have done this in the past as an agency recruiter, trying to get business, but again, that person is trying to gain that client, and yes, they're trying to place that candidate, but they're ultimately trying to pick up that client so that they can place that candidate. So agency recruiters, the highest rec load I ever had as an agency recruiter was probably 11 or 12. They were very similar roles. I've worked in, predominantly IT, engineering, supply chain, a little bit in health tech. Those are kind of, the skill sets that I worked with regularly as an agency recruiter. So I was aligned more to skill sets. So that said, neither an internal or an external recruiter is, yes, we work with candidates. Yes, we care about people getting jobs, but we ultimately report to, either our internal company or our clients. We're recruiting for them to find people for their positions. So a lot of people have this idea that recruiters, particularly third-party agency recruiters, work for the candidate. And that's just not the case. The candidate doesn't pay them. The client is the one paying them. That's who they're essentially reporting to. So as an agency recruiter, I get a lot of people that come to me and say, help me find a job. That's not quite how we work. From a job search perspective, I do coach candidates on job searching. I do help them. I do guide them, but I ultimately do not find them a job. So some of the animosity and anger that you see towards recruiters because they didn't find you a job, that's just not how the industry is laid out. That's not how our profession works. I would love to be able to just place people anywhere I wanted. That would be great for them and for me. But ultimately, the recruiter works for the company, whether it's a third-party agreement or internal in-house. Now, that said, when I do coach candidates, and I also do retain and fractional recruiting as well, so I'm also a recruiter for other clients, for other companies, I do advise my candidates or my clients to go out and work with multiple recruiters in their industry. Not every recruiter works with every company. So you're increasing your odds that a recruiter might have something for you by working with multiple recruiters. So if you are an engineering recruiter, I would tell you find 3 to 4 good engineering firms, work with them, have multiple relationships with multiple recruiters, because we do build pipelines, we do build networks. As people become available or positions come in, if you're fresh in my mind and I know you're looking, you're going to be my first call. So yes, partner with external recruiters. If you are actively looking, absolutely connect with them. I have been in the IT space for a very, very long time. I started off recruiting IT, so for about 15 years or so. I still have people that when I was a baby recruiter and I connected with and met with for lunch or placed, I still have them that they still call me. We still stay in contact. I have past candidates and relationships that now they're retired and they send me their kids, their grandkids' resumes, their nieces, their nephews' resumes, that type of thing. So building good relationships with good external recruiters, I absolutely recommend it. It will definitely help you in your job search. At the very least, you're probably going to get some resume tips, some interviewing tips, maybe some connections. I have referred candidates that I can't place to other recruiters in my network, both internal and external. So it's never going to hurt you to network and have those relationships with recruiters. Just understand that the recruiters are ultimately working for the company that pays their paycheck. They're not out placing people, helping people find jobs just because. So that is today's show. If you have any questions or anything you'd like me to cover, you can email me at info@unicornrecruitmentandcareerservices.com. Otherwise, you can message me on any of my social media platforms. Have a great week.